What's up, y'all? It's Carl from Massive Speed. How are ya? I'm here today to talk to you about intrusion. Now, I'm not talking about people intruding into your house, burglars. Something way worse than that. I'm talking about vehicular intrusion. Intrusion into the passenger cabin of your car. Last couple of years, the OEMs have been coming up with different schemes to protect the occupant of these cars. In particular, trucks, SUVs that use body-on-frame construction. Body on a frame works awesome. The frame is super rigid. The body...
Stop blowing holes in my shit!
Of course, it doesn't have to be very tough structurally. And the problem is if you're in an offset collision, not a dead-on collision, but something off a little to one of the sides, it tends to just tear off that suspension and push the wheel and tire up into the passenger compartment. That means intrusion into the passenger compartment. And what happens then? Some pretty gruesome injuries to your feet, legs, knees, shins, all that stuff, toenails. So they've been coming up with different schemes to mitigate that, make it safer. One of the things that Ford has been doing on their trucks, F-150s, 19 plus Rangers, the new Broncos, is they're using intrusion beams. Now these are steel beams in front of and behind the wheel. If it gets into that offset crash scenario, that beam's gonna hit first. It's gonna transfer that energy into the frame of the vehicle, not just fold up the body. And it's gonna slow that wheel and tire way down so it does not intrude into the passenger compartment, or at least if it does, God forbid, a hell of a lot less. So why are we talking about this? What do you care? What do I care? We don't talk about car safety much here, do we? The reason is, if you're like me, as soon as you get one of these trucks, you want to put big ass wheels and tires on it. The problem is they start to rub on those beams right away. Now they don't rub when you're just going down the road, but they rub if you try to turn. One of the solutions to this issue would be stop turning so damn much. Instead of a 3-point turn, take a 13-point turn. Possible solution for sure. Another option, get rid of them. Now, one of the cool things on these new Fords is they just bolt on. It's a couple of bolts. You can remove them. Just get rid of the darn things. Why would you not want to do that? Well, obviously, Ford spent countless millions of dollars, hundreds and hundreds of hours of engineering. I'm sure hundreds of vehicles were sacrificed to further the development of these beams. So if you just throw them away, yeah, you get to look cool, you get big tires, but you're probably seriously putting your occupants at risk. You, the driver, as well as anybody who's with you, your family, your friends, whoever. And obviously there could be insurance implications. If your insurance company finds out you just threw these away, are they going to be as likely to repair your vehicle if they knew you sacrificed safety components? Instead of one of those solutions, we went with something a little different. We came up with a high clearance intrusion beam. So you still have the beam, but it's cut out to allow you to have big wheels and tires. Now we make them out of billet aluminum, solid chunk of billet aluminum. The factory ones are just tubular steel. So I'm gonna say just as strong as the OEM. They're not gonna corrode. They look cool. They got a bunch of different colors we can do them in. Made right here in the US. And you're gonna find out in the next couple of minutes, super easy to install. We're gonna detail the installation on this vehicle here. It's one of my buddy Dave's Broncos. He's been using the 13-point turn solution. Now it's kind of hard to see. I'll have you come on in here. You can see that's the beam right there. And here's the tire. Now this tire is only about half of the way turned. So you can see it's been rubbing there, and up in front here too. You can see the discoloration. There's no paint left on that beam because the tire's been rubbing against it. So it's time to get real, get safe, and get you some high clearance intrusion beams. We got our truck pulled in. It's not up on jack stands. It's not on a lift. This is a job you can do sitting on the floor. The main thing we got to do is remove these old beams. So if you come on in here, you'll see it's just 2 bolts per beam. Pretty simple. Unfortunately, to get this beam out, if we remove those 2 bolts, it'll just kind of hit the end of the bumper here. So in order to give us a little bit more clearance, we're going to loosen the front bumper and slide it forward about 1/2 inch. And that'll give us the clearance we need to pull out these intrusion beams. This is the modular bumper from Ford. There's a couple of different bumpers that you could have got on your new Bronco. This one's the modular bumper. To get to these bolts, we're gonna pull this little plastic cover. There's 4 push pins. Definitely need the panel popper for this job. I mean, you could try to use a flat blade screwdriver, but these just make it so much easier. And you don't damage the push pins, so you can reuse them. Once you get those out, it just clips on. There's 4 little clips that hold this piece on. It exposes 3 bolts. Now we'll have to loosen up all 6 bolts, so 3 per side, in order to get it loose enough to actually pull out. We'll break them loose with ratchet and a 15mm socket. Now, if you think I loosened these bolts before the video so I'd look really strong, like the video if you think I loosened them. Subscribe if you think I'm just that strong. All right, onto the other side. This is already loose. I'm going to cheat and use a cordless impact here. And you can see the whole bumper kind of moves, and it gives it enough flex there where we can slide that beam right out of there. Okay, back to the beam here. Like I say, there's 2 bolts here. They're both 15mm. They're on there pretty tight. So again, use your ratchet. They're on there pretty darn good. And a 15mm ratcheting wrench makes this really easy. We've got our new beam here, and of course we've got our supplied mounting hardware, 2 bolts and 2 washers. If you're from the Rust Belt like we are, I'm going to put a little anti-seize on there. Just keep things from sticking. Pro tip, if you're from the Midwest as well, we like to put our anti-seize in one of these universal ketchup bottles things. Just makes it so much easier to handle. I'm not going to tell you that you're not going to still get it all over the place, but it seems to limit it. As you can see, slides right in. Also note these nuts on the bottom, they're welded to the frame. So no, you cannot loosen these from the bottom. You got to go from the top. Now to tighten these bad boys, we're going to use a 19mm socket and our ratchet wrench. All right, they're in. One of the nice things you'll notice is this kind of seals up this entrance to the frame. Factory beams are hollow, tubular. Some of my competitors also use a tubular or steel construction that leaves that wide open, meaning water, salt, debris can get inside your frame, which over time is going to lead to corrosion. Okay, onto the back bar. Again, we have 2 bolts back here. It's going to be a 15mm. Easiest to get in here with a wrench. There's just not really room for a ratchet. All right, slides right out. Now, as you can see on this bar, there's actually a bunch of mud and dirt and dust in there, and I don't want that to slow us up when we're sliding our new ones in. So I'm going to spray a little cleaner in there to clean that whole thing out. All right, now that it's clean, we should be able to slide our bar in here. Got our new bolts and washers. We're going to put some anti-seize on again. Okay, so for this part, we're going to need a 19mm ratcheting wrench. I'm going to finger tighten them down as much as I can. So we got this side done. We'll jump on the other side, do the exact same thing. Then we'll tighten your bumper back up and we'll be good to go. All right, guys, as you can see, we got both sides done. We got our bumper tightened back up, our little finish panels popped back on. This truck's ready to go. Super simple job. It's inexpensive, and you can run big tires and still be able to turn. Well, I think you'll agree this is a must-have. Remember to like and subscribe, guys. Check us out.